Hey, it's Becky. Here is how to sew a fabric face mask suitable for personal use or donation. This pattern is by Jessica Nandino in her Instructable called AB Mask for a Nurse by a Nurse, which I'll link in the description. Here in New York City, we're being advised to cover our faces when we go outside, but not to take away commercial surgical masks from healthcare workers who need them the most. That's where this homemade mask comes in. It's not a sufficient replacement for real respiratory protection, but it's better than nothing. I made a few of these for my family and neighbors, and many others globally are sewing as many as they can to donate to their communities. I put a link in the description about ways you can get your donations to hospitals in New York City, which can use the fabric masks over top of their surgical masks to extend their life. To make the mask, use 100% cotton fabric and thread with a tight weave, such as quilting fabric. 100% cotton is important because it can stand up to the high heat during cleaning, including potentially in an autoclave. When making masks for others, be sure to sanitize your workstation, tools, and wash your hands before you begin. Consider wearing a mask yourself while making. Print or draw out your pattern and use it to cut 2 of the pattern pieces from along the folded edge of your freshly washed fabric, including the small triangular notches along the side. You'll also need 2 40-inch strips of 1.5-inch wide fabric for the straps and extra pieces of 1.5-inch binding for the sides. Unfold your fabric pieces, iron them, and line them up on top of each other. It's important to be able to tell the inside and outside of the mask apart, so if you don't have 2 different fabrics to use here, place both sides right side down. Pin and stitch all the way around the perimeter, attaching the 2 layers together with a 1/4-inch seam allowance. Now it's time to iron the pleats. With the pointed edge away from you and right side down, fold up the lower majority of the fabric to create a horizontal fold that lines up with the top 2 notches. Press it with the iron, then fold the fabric back down at the next set of notches and iron it again. Repeat this pleat process 2 more times to create creases at all 6 sets of notches for 3 pleats. Pin the pleats in place and stitch them with a 1/4-inch seam allowance, basically over the same line you stitched just before. Next, to attach the binding at the sides, line up right sides together and stitch 1 more time over that same 1/4-inch seam. Then fold over the binding and iron it out to the side. Fold over and iron a 1/4-inch hem on the outer edge of the binding, then fold the whole thing in half to encapsulate the raw seam, and iron that 1 more time before top stitching. Now it's going to start getting 3D with darts. Fold the mask in half and mark the darts using the pattern, either with a marking chalk or pins. Stitch along the dart lines, then trim off the extra triangle of fabric. The last sewing step is to attach the top and bottom bindings, which are also the straps. Start at the middle, which you can find by folding the pieces in half, and pin the right sides together. Stitch a 1/4-inch seam like you did on the sides, then open up the binding and iron it flat, continuing that 1/4-inch fold down the length of the strap. Iron in another 1/4 inch fold along the remaining raw edge of the binding, then fold the whole thing in half and iron it again, encapsulating the raw edge. Top stitch both top and bottom bindings, starting at one end of the strap and continuing all the way across the mask and down the other strap. Trim all your threads and the sewing is complete. If you're making masks for somebody other than yourself, the last thing to do is wash the mask in really hot water and dry it, and then seal it up in a new plastic bag. Thanks for watching, and I wish you all good health.